Good morning, Energy Rogue Nation. Welcome back to another weather discussion. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and a happy Saturday to each and every one of you. It's the first day of college football season for all of you who celebrate and rejoice the return of college football. Today is your day, especially for those that are my Florida State Seminole fans out there. I know a couple of you. Hopefully today goes well in your favor. But listen, for today's video, we're going to be talking a lot about the tropics. We won't really dive much into temperature trends in the United States. We're going to mainly focus our attention on both the Pacific and the Atlantic basins, as we have a lot of activity happening now and also some activity happening later on for the latter, which would be the Atlantic. You guys probably could pick that up by now. That's exactly what I was talking about. But listen, before we get started with today's video, I do want to remind you that we have WX Rogue. That is a free platform for you to use. This is especially for my folks that are in ag and energy markets. This platform provides you with some pretty useful tools for free, especially, for example, the chart to the left, our population-weighted cooling degree days, our CDDs, cooling degree days for top 5 populated cities, is also on here. And we also have recently added heating degree days for both as well. This will certainly come in handy for many of you as we head into the winter season. We're going to be going into a La Nina pattern, which typically has implications for some colder weather, typically for places like the northern United States and the northern half of the United States. So if you find this website useful, it is completely free at your disposal. WXRogue.com. This is updated regularly every single day. And an honorable mention, we also provide some NOAA maps for you too. This is, of course, courtesy of the NOAA Climate Prediction Center, also posted here, and our total degree days. Now, we will be coming out with a premium version of this, so if you're looking for more than just one model or one interpretation of the forecast, if you're going to be looking for more in-depth analysis on the seasons ahead, you're going to want to stay tuned, because we are working on a premium product over at Energy Rogue that is going to address all of those needs and more. Stay tuned. We certainly expect to have that up here within the next month or so, especially before we enter into the holiday season. Okay, let's begin first by heading on back to COD. This is the Pacific Basin that we're taking a look at here this morning. And I have to say, for a lot of you that are saying that there's not much tropical activity going on, well, you may be true for the Atlantic Basin, it might be true for the Gulf, but certainly not the case for the Pacific. We currently, right now, as of this morning, have Tropical Storm Hone as it makes its way towards the Big Island. It is expected to pass just to the south of Hilo as a low-end Category 1 hurricane over the next 24 to 48 hours. Meanwhile, behind that, we have Hurricane, did I say it was Gale? Do I remember that? Gilma. I was going to say Gale. Sorry about that. Hurricane Gilma is also following right behind it, and that is expected to also make a pretty close pass to the Big Island as likely some form of a tropical storm by the time we get to the middle of next week. And if you thought we were done with that, there is a lot more convection following suit. Look at all this deep convection here on our infrared satellite this morning. A lot of activity taking place just off the coast of Mexico, and there's even more convection near the coastline right near Baja. So the Pacific is certainly very active. Now, contrast that to the other part of the globe, and that is the Atlantic Basin, and we see a much different story taking shape right now. Look at this. Not much activity to go around, with the exception, though, being just off the coast of Florida, and then even some convection down towards, just well to the south of the Yucatan, and really more so near the Panama Canal, seeing some shower and thunderstorm activity there. Not expected to see some development out of that, mostly just some convection. And we also have a secondary wave that's all the way back towards the African coast, and this one is rather interesting, because a lot of forecasters and meteorologists like myself are paying very close attention to that wave, as this could actually be the catalyst behind an uptick in activity in the Atlantic Basin. Because overall, ladies and gentlemen, not much activity. We're not seeing a lot of convection. As a matter of fact, very shallow just to the east of the Lesser Antilles. Not much to go around. But that wave in particular that I'm about to draw here in black is something that we're paying very close attention to as we go into next week. Now, one thing I want to make note of, just as a disclaimer, the National Hurricane Center, as of Saturday morning, does not have any area of interest outlined here. And that makes a lot of sense because, again, this is a secondary wave we're looking at, and that's really all it is at the moment. We don't have a clear low pressure coming off of Africa. This is just what I would call an open wave of convection. It's nothing that's really materialized quite yet, but this is something that our model suite has been hinting at being sort of the starting point for what could be an uptick in activity in what has been a very quiet Atlantic basin over the last couple of weeks. One thing that you're also not going to see on this video, but I am going to mention, is that we had a lot of Saharan dust that was coming off of the Saharas and the African coastline, and that was especially true during July. Now, as we look at this behind the scenes and under the hood, what I've been able to identify is that that Saharan dust plume has actually really contracted and decreased its amplification over the last week and a half, 2 weeks. This makes a lot of sense because if we look at the climatology of the Saharan dust season, if we were to draw, say, July, and then here's June, and here's August, well, you would expect to see sort of a bell curve that looks like that as far as Saharan dust is concerned, and it kind of tapers off around September. Now, some may argue that the Saharan dust season is getting a little bit more prolonged than historicals, and I think there's an argument there to be made, but at least for the sake of this video and this discussion, what's important about that is if we're seeing a decrease in the Saharan dust plume as we are and as observed the last week and a half, that would imply that there's less dry air to choke out any convection. So as this wave moves off towards the west, it is likely that we could see some materializing taking place, some consolidation that would really start to identify some potential areas of concern. This is something that we are going to continue to monitor, as I mentioned, over the weekend and into next week. So if you are not subscribed to the YouTube channel here, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. That way you can get notifications on when the videos do go live. And also, if you are interested in the Energy Rogue platform for my energy nat gas traders, I will also provide a link down in the description below that will provide you some information. We have folks here that are watching this video that are currently members, but we also have a lot of you that aren't. So if you are interested in the products that we do provide over at Energy Rogue, as well as learning more about WX Rogue, be sure to click that link down below and be sure to subscribe to this video and this channel so that way you can get continuous updates on videos that do come out. Let's now take a look at some of those weather models that I was talking about. And what I like to do, especially as a meteorologist, I really do gravitate towards ensembles. Now, I'm certainly not saying that there is such thing as a silver bullet. This certainly has its limitations, just like all the solutions that are at our disposal. But what makes the GFS helpful in our case is it gives us more of a statistical confidence on activity and forecasting. For example, let's start by taking a look at the Western Atlantic. And the product that we're going to start with is looking at the, I wanted to do, let's see, the MSLP anomaly. Nope, don't want that. Which one was it? I believe it was this one. Let's see, I forgot which one it was. I know I did have it on here. Give me a second, guys. Let's see if I can find it. For some reason, I cannot locate it. Okay. Well, that's fine. Oh, you know what? Norm anomalies. Yeah, that's fine. I actually don't know why I couldn't find this. I mean, I was able to find it before. Oh, here it is. Got it. Sorry about that. I found it. So this is the product that I wanted to show you. And this actually gives us all the different members that make up this ensemble. So remember, folks, ensembles are not just one weather model. They are a collection of several, if not dozens, of different interpretations of the forecast. And it helps to give you sort of a statistical spread on how confident we are in certain trends and changes. So for example, we're taking this all the way out to early next week, and look at all the activity that begins to pop up right near the Gulf of Mexico. This has been an area over the last several weeks that has also been quiet, yet the sea surface temperatures are incredibly hot, and they're actually near records, if not record-breaking at the moment. So it's a very supportive environment from that point of view, But unfortunately, the pattern that's been in place has really inhibited development. We've had the energy to work with, we just haven't had the environment or the synoptic pattern to really support that. So this would take us into what would be the end of the month, right around Saturday, the 31st of August, but particularly that Friday. And the GFS is hinting at a system that would actually impact just to the east of Houston, between Houston and New Orleans. We also see, though, as we go beyond the first week of September, look at the flurry of activity that shows up. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4 areas of low pressure. So what this is showing us is essentially areas of low pressure that the ensemble is picking up. Now, of course, our forecast is relatively low in terms of confidence right now, especially as it relates to a potential impact in the Gulf. That being said, this has been a signal that has been shown on both the GEFS as well as the European ensemble, and we need to keep a very close eye on that because the environment that's being forecasted as we head into the rest of August is going to be a hell of a lot more supportive for tropical development, something that we have not seen pretty much since early July and late June with Beryl and even Debbie. So if we, though, take this a little bit further and we go towards, say, the western coastline of Africa, or in this case, the tropical Atlantic, look what happens with that wave, right? Remember how we talked about at the beginning of the video, that wave, that tropical wave off the coast of Africa. Watch what happens here as we go forward into Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Look at that. That wave now brings about a whole lot of convective activity in the Atlantic basin. That is also something that the EPS is showing too, which is our European model, also very similar, right? We're seeing an uptick in activity in the Atlantic basin to the east of the Lesser Antilles. Both of these would imply that that convective wave moving off of Africa is going to help to stimulate what has been a stagnant Atlantic basin and thus produce more convective activity. A lot of that is not just driven by the wave itself, but also because of the pattern that we're going to be flipping to. So let's take a look at that real quick and show you exactly what I mean. We'll change our region and we will look here at the, I guess we'll do North America, and we'll look just at the general jet stream pattern. This, of course, is our jet stream 500 millibars. Take a look at what happens here over the next few days. Currently, we have that area of high pressure that's sitting right over Texas and Oklahoma in the south central United States. We then have a big bowling ball trough, really sizable low pressure that moves through the Pacific Northwest by the time we get to essentially later on today, if not right now. And then as we go into the weekend and into next week, look what happens to our pattern. We get this big ridge amplification out towards the central United States that's going to really spread the love for the heat across the Midwest and the upper Midwest. We'll be seeing some heat indices well into the 90s for a lot of the lower Great Lakes. And, of course, the south central United States and the southeast will also remain warm during that period as we head into early next week. But as we get towards the middle of the week, we see a bit of a change here to what would be more of this subtle meridional pattern. I wouldn't even call it zonal. It's not a straight west to east jet stream orientation. There was a little bit of perturbations in our jet. But what's interesting is that it's really less amplified. It's much less amplified with our jet than it was before. What this means is essentially the Gulf, in translation, would be open for business beginning late August. We could see some development that takes place right near the Yucatan Peninsula and move potentially north. Now, like I said before, there currently isn't a system that we're watching right now. There's nothing that can be identified on current obs. But that being said, as we've seen on both the European, the GEFS ensembles, and our other models, they have a very strong signal towards a transitional pattern towards more of this very subtle progressive flow, not like what we've seen before where we have a big trough and a big ridge. Instead, it's more muted, which would actually mean less inhibition for the Gulf and potentially an uptick in activity as we get towards late August, early September. So, for folks that think the tropical season is over, as a reminder, climatology says that the peak of hurricane season is right around the beginning of September and middle of September. Goes throughout the entire month, and we still have the opportunity for tropical systems even getting into November. We are not done, and we are not out of the woods. As a matter of fact, I am very much concerned about late August, early September for some development. So, especially for my folks here who are watching this video that are Energy Rogue members, you want to pay close attention to this. I will be posting some more information over these next several days because we could see the Gulf begin to wake up, something that we haven't seen in quite a while. Listen, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And as I mentioned before, if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe, like down below, and comment if you have any questions that I can answer here on the channel. If you have any questions relating to the concepts that I talked about today, or weather for your area that you want to know a little bit more about, go ahead and post that down in the comments below, and I'll be happy to get to those and answer those promptly. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday with another weather video. Take care.